And now to our first conversation. According to the NBS, a whopping 133 million Nigerians, over 60% of the total population in Nigeria, cannot meet their basic needs, including food. And food security has been a major talking point this year. And as the general elections draw close, the major political contenders have put forward their manifestos, and today we'll be focusing on their plans for agriculture. And we have with us right here in the studio, Mr. Emmanuel Ijewere, President, Nigeria Agri-Business Group. Great to have you on the show, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
So we've seen, most of these manifestos, and I'll start with the APC, manifesto. They said they will increase the arable land cultivated from about 35% to 65% in 4 years. How workable is this, and is this actually what we need, to ensure food security?
I don't think so. You first of all must identify what the problem is. Nigeria is one of the least productive countries in the world in terms of agricultural output. Nigeria has a lot of good arable land, but it's not being cultivated. The education of the farmers really does not exist in Nigeria. They're not improving. And what has also happened is that since 99% of agricultural activities take place in the villages people are just moving out of the villages, going to the cities. And these are the people who can work. So we're left with older people whose ideas were what their grandfathers taught them. The world has moved, but they are unable to move. Those who are supposed to help move have moved to the cities. So it's not the amount of land you cultivate, it's what quantum of products come from the land you have. I'll give an example. One of the most difficult countries in the world is the Netherlands. A small land, and even their land, a lot of it is underwater. Yet, they are about the second largest producer of food because they use their brains to use the little land they had. Nigeria has so much land, and yet inefficiencies in the system. And what also makes it interesting is the fact that the Nigerian farmers, despite the fact that they are one of the most hardworking people in the world and least rewarded people, they produce over 120% of the food we need to eat. But the system is fractured. The value chain is fractured. So only about 65% or even 50% of the food they work so hard to produce end up on your table. So we lose the others. So increasing the land is not the solution. Making the value
But is it part of the solution?
It's not. Because if you go and take more land, what you do is you carry the inefficiencies to more land and you make those land more wasteful. The ones you have now, you can make them more productive by having the right kind of seed, the right training of the people, a better value chain. Do that. Because we're already producing more than 120%. If out of 120% we lose only 20%, there's enough 100% for us to eat. Right now we're losing about almost 50 or 60%. So the solution should be, look at what is the problem. It's not a question of increasing land. That's my thought on that.
Okay, then now, obviously the APC did have other plans in the manifesto for agriculture, but let's move to the PDP now. They talk about addressing bottlenecks and challenges to accessing finance. And obviously we know, finance is an issue, for farmers at this time.
The thinking, my thinking that I'm going to present to you now comes from one of the people I have the greatest respect for revolutionizing agriculture in Nigeria, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina. He was a former Minister of Agriculture. He revolutionized it. He had the courage to change what was thought was unchangeable. And his concept was this, that agriculture should be a business. It's not just an activity. And what he also said was that money is the last thing. Think of it first. Plan it. And then when you have now planned it, money now can now follow it. So if you see it as a business, treat it as a business. So when you say you throw money at it, the moment money comes in, corruption immediately follows. Politicians see it as a place of making money. And many of these farmers themselves are illiterate. Whatever they give to them is what they say, thank God, that's all I got. But that is not what the nation is supposed to give to them to help them grow. So therefore, money is not the issue. I'm actually happy that the central bank came with this anchor borrower scheme. It was very well structured, very well thought out. So they are doing the right thing, but the wrong way.
And we did hear the CBN say, their interventions did save us from famine.
Well, it had a positive impact, but not, I would say, 25 to 30% impact. The reason is that you cannot shave a man's head behind his back. When Central Bank was putting this beautiful idea together, did they bring the farmers? Did they bring the activists, those who are actually working in the agricultural space, to think about this with them? Or they sat down in an air-conditioned office and perceived what the problems were? And we have the money, we provide the money. That's the only thing that I think went wrong. But the idea was good, the anchor borrower scheme, because it was business-based, bringing people together, but it did not bring the real people who are the activists together. So money is not what you throw at agriculture. The concept, who are the people, and how can you, what are the particular areas? An example is this. Nigeria has different types of soil situations in the country, and some products are more effective or more productive in some areas than other areas. You now have to carry out what is called the soil mapping and make this knowledge available. And the other issue that is also missing here is the fact that there's no competition. Agriculture is practiced in the villages. Villages are in local governments. Local governments are under the state governments. What is the connection between the state government, the local government, and the various farmers? Very little. The federal government, because what we're talking about, what we're talking is mainly now the policy of the president and his team that are coming on board. And that's at the national level. But agriculture is practiced at that lower level. It's important for you to be able to link up the thinking in Abuja with the thinking in Kafanchan, with the thinking in Umudike, with the thinking everywhere in the country. That is missing here. That's what I'm saying, that you don't throw money at it. It's not the money. The thinking first, the brain. Nigeria's future should be knowledge-based, not money-based, because money attracts corruption.
Right. All right, let's look at the Labour Party now. They've talked about moving from consumption to production, and also, marrying the long separated couple of agriculture and industry.
Yes.
What's your reaction to that?
Well, that is in consonance with the thinking of Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, which was revolutionary. This is a new concept. This is clearly ahead of any other one, in the sense that agriculture should be demand-based. Demand what you want. That brings you to the business environment. The other one that they have mentioned is that the production itself should be the effort that should be put in. But you don't produce unless somebody demands something from you, and the person gives you the specification of what he wants. We have always been supply based. We are producing this, we are producing that, we are producing that. Let's give the example of cassava. Nigeria is the biggest producer of cassava in the world. I think about 38 to 40% of all cassava in the world is produced in Nigeria. Despite that, Nigeria is short of cassava. Why? Because as of today, we are producing about 60 million metric tons of cassava. Because we are producing only 60 million metric tons and we are eating a lot of it, we don't have enough for the ethanol plant and the starch plants in Nigeria. So those plants, those production facilities, that's where this particular one that talked about industry is very important, cannot produce optimally because they don't have enough supply. The moment they go start producing optimally, we won't have enough gari to eat anymore. So now we have to use what we have in the country. Right now, IITA, which is one of the best research institutions in the world for agriculture, and Umudike, those are great assets. They have come up with a species of cassava that can, in 18 months, move Nigeria's cassava production from 60 million metric tons to 100 million metric tons. These are the knowledge-based things that we're talking about. It's not just making statements. It must be business-based, and there must be competition. from state to state. State out what are the encouragement you will give to the private sector to come to your state to develop the agricultural space. And then you use that at the federal level, tell the world, this state says they will help you with this, they will help you with this, they will help you with this. But the states must realize that these are investors that are coming that must be encouraged to provide jobs for their people, provide food for Nigeria. That's the concept. We need to change our mindset. That's right. So this third one, the Labour Party one, appears to be, it hits it on the head. Fantastic.
All right. Looking at, all the manifestos now, and obviously come 2023, we hope that, whoever wins will actually manifest,
Yes.
to put it that way. But what recommendations do you have, as we've listed, most of these manifestos now, what would you recommend to, add, to make them stronger and secure food for Nigeria?
Whoever is going to be the Minister or Commissioner for Agriculture must not be a politician, first and foremost. Number two, they must work very closely with the research institutions, because that's where a lot of the knowledge is harbored. Number three, take out your soil mapping to be able to educate your people. Number five, collect data of your farmers at local government level. How many farmers are in yam? In fact, I was talking about yam. With further research that came out from these institutions, these research institutions, is that within 18 months today, we can double the amount of yam we are producing. They've come that far. But because there is a disconnect between government and the private sector, these things just go to waste. I come back to this again. However, the state governments and the federal government must work with mutual respect for each other, knowing the limitations of each one. The federal government is at the top there at policy level. They don't get involved in going to the farm because the federal government has no land. All the land belongs to the state governments. Therefore, you work with the state governments and say to them, we are there to support you at the national level. So, first of all, like I said, they must not be politicians. They must be people who must be giving targets. If you're a commissioner or a minister of agriculture, if you're talking about rice, this year we produce this quantity of rice. In the next 12 months, we must have this. That is the examination you are supposed. We'll test you at the end of that period to see whether you achieved your goal. And make it public. The more public things are put out there, the more interest people show in it. So the other advice I will give is this, that the value chain has a lot of problems. Things like other countries that are really developing, they are having their commodity exchanges. And we have commodity exchanges in Nigeria. But government has not really sat down with them, not even government in particular. The system, if the roads are bad, you will discover that if the private sector comes in, if they know they're going to make a profit from making sure their goods move from point A to point B, by investing in improving that road, they will quietly do it. Because these are people who are investing to make money. But government seems to have a way of keeping everybody out. If you create a seamless relationship between the private sector and the public sector, that's why this Labour Party one that gives impression of industry and agriculture must work together to achieve this goal. Nigeria has a great, great future. It's all between you and I. Remove the corruption. Remove the mentality of politics. We have all that it takes. And you will notice that when a Nigerian leaves Nigeria, he gets abroad, he excels. That same Nigerian here, he just feels, there's nothing here for me. Let's change that mindset. That's basically what I'm looking at here.
So much to do going forward now. And obviously, the government create that enabling environment
Yes.
and step back and let the private sector, do their thing. Thank you so much. That was Mr. Emmanuel Ejewere, President, Nigeria Agric Business Group. It was great having your perspective today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, so we'll take a break now. When we come back, AFX Commodities Market Update is next. Do stay with us. This is Business Morning.